On Wednesday evening, Coles Chief Operations Officer, Matt Swindle, announced that the company is indefinitely extending a 3-month lockout of workers at its Smeaton Grange warehouse in southwestern Sydney. This announcement poses major political issues before the Smeaton Grange staff, their colleagues at warehouses across the country, and the entire working class. In a video announcement, Swindle said that the extension of the lockout should not be new news. He said, quote, "I've been really clear in the lead up to the dispute on where we stood and what actions we would take," end quote. But the union hid that from the workers and lulled them into believing that Coles would not lock them out. Swindles hailed the United Workers Union for colluding with Coles to force workers to accept a rotten sellout agreement that would result in the closure of Smeaton Grange and the destruction of all of the jobs there. His fury at the workers was palpable for rejecting the destruction of their jobs in 6 separate votes. And he denounced the so-called extremist, anti-union socialists, that is the Socialist Equality Party and the World Socialist website, for disrupting this company union operation. Swindles has inadvertently revealed the real lineup at Smeaton Grange. The company and the union are on one side and the workers are on the other. Swindles made clear that management and the unions are collaborating very closely to engineer a return to work on company terms. The union, acting as an arm of management, has denied workers strike pay, isolated them, and tried to starve them into submission. Swindles lyingly denounced a minority of workers, but in fact an absolute majority of Smeaton Grange staff have rejected the sellout on 6 occasions. They've powerfully demonstrated that they want to fight for their jobs and their rights against the union sellout. Swindles called the WSWS and the SEP extremists, but what he meant is that it's extremists to fight to defend jobs, wages and working conditions. In fact, it's Coles and the union that want to throw workers onto the scrap heap of unemployment and poverty to boost the fortunes of the company's ultra-wealthy shareholders. The corporate elite as a whole is trying to turn the clock back to the 1930s when workers had no rights at all, when mass unemployment and poverty were rampant. But Swindle's comments indicated what Coles and the union fear. He warned that the socialists wanted to extend the dispute to other Coles warehouses and facilities, that we're opposed to the corrupt industrial police force that is the United Workers Union, and that we're fighting for what he called a wider agenda of taking on the banks and big business. Coles workers in Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney were completely unaware of the lockout until the SEP informed them of it. We've mobilised support from postal workers, teachers, academics and others, where the union has left the Smeaton Grange workers isolated and alone. Because Coles, one of the largest employers in Australia, and the union are seeking to create a blueprint for mass sackings and warehouse closures, the SEP has intervened. We're fighting for a complete break with the UWU and the establishment of independent rank and file committees at Smeaton Grange, throughout Coles and Woolworths and at warehouses everywhere. The experiences of the past 3 months have made clear that this is the only way that workers can fight for their jobs and their fundamental rights. Workers are up against not just company management, but all of the corporations, the government, Labor, the unions, and the Fair Work laws that they use to suppress any collective action. This lineup can only be fought through a broader movement of the working class, which could organise a genuine industrial and political struggle outside the straitjacket of the union. And a new political perspective is required. Coles and the UWU are trying to impose the policy of the ruling class everywhere, that is, to make workers pay for the crisis of the capitalist system. The alternative is a socialist perspective, for Coles, Woolworths and all the other major corporations and the banks to be placed under public ownership and democratic workers' control. That's the perspective fought for by the SEP. We urge workers who want to fight this sellout operation at Smeaton Grange to contact us today.